Previously, I explored the myths surrounding the Theban king Oedipus, and how he unwittingly killed his father and slept with his mother, and was punished by the gods for this. I pointed out that the Oedipus story was part of a wider tradition of myths. This expanded tradition concerns multiple generations of the Theban royal family, and how they were plagued by a series of curses that eventually brought their doom. Oedipus's father, Laius, was cursed. Oedipus himself was cursed. Oedipus's sons, Eteocles and Polynices, were also cursed. In the previous episode, which focused on Oedipus's sons, I told how the family curse brought Thebes into a great war against the city-state of Argos and a whole collection of other nefarious heroes. In the end, the sons of Oedipus were destined to destroy each other, and did so. This episode is about the fate of the daughters of Oedipus, Antigone and Ismene, what they got up to after the death of their father, and what happened to them after the deaths of their brothers. For this episode, I'll mostly be relying on 3 plays by the Athenian playwright Sophocles. References to the daughters appear in other Greek works as well, but the details are much more limited. Over the course of his life, and he lived to just over 90 years old, Sophocles wrote at least 120 plays in the 5th century BC, and was one of the most popular playwrights in ancient Athens. Plays in Athens were often entered in competitions. Sophocles entered 30, won 24, and got 2nd place in the rest. He was primarily known for his tragedies. The most well-known source for the story of Oedipus is Sophocles' play Oedipus Rex. As I went over in the Oedipus episode, the play has Oedipus already king of Thebes, after arriving there from the city of Corinth. But things are not looking good. Thebes is facing a plague with supernatural origins. An oracle directs Oedipus to uncover the murderer of the previous king, Laius. He sets to work, and eventually learns that he is the long-lost son of Laius and Queen Jocasta. Unknowingly killed Laius when traveling to Thebes, and married the widowed Jocasta, who also happened to be his mother. At the end of the play, Oedipus, devastated by these twin sins of patricide and incest, plucks out his own eyes and abandons the throne of Thebes. At this point, we have the appearance of Oedipus's 2 daughters. In Oedipus Rex, they don't do anything, but Oedipus charges the Theban nobleman Creon, who is also the brother of Oedipus's mother and wife, Jocasta, with looking after his daughters. In this play, Oedipus's daughters just have cameos. In Sophocles' play Oedipus at Colonus, Oedipus's daughter Antigone is a central character. Throughout the play, there are references to a prophecy about Oedipus's future grave being a blessed place. I won't go into too much detail on this, but it relates back to the real-world cult of Oedipus that existed in ancient Greece. In the play, all the drama with Oedipus finding out his crimes has already happened, and the former king is living a life of exile outside Thebes. Fortunately for him, he is not alone. Oedipus is accompanied by his dutiful daughter Antigone. They arrive at a village called Colonus, located near Athens. However, they are not welcome. The villagers tell them the town is sacred to the Erinyes, or Furies, the vengeance goddesses of ancient Greece. The villagers are horrified to learn of Oedipus's crimes, but say they will wait for their king, Theseus, to arrive and tell them what to do. Yes, this is the same Theseus who slayed the Minotaur. This play is just one example of the Athenians inserting their founder hero into other heroes' myths. Last episode, I talked about how Oedipus's sons Eteocles and Polynices fought against each other for the throne of Thebes. Eteocles seized the throne, and Polynices left the city to gain the support of Argos to attack Thebes. The events of the Oedipus at Colonus play happen during this time. While Oedipus and Antigone speak with the Colonus villagers, the other daughter of Oedipus, Ismene, arrives riding a horse. She tells her sister and father about the feud between Eteocles and Polynices. Oedipus curses his sons. Ismene shares more news. This other information is about the Theban nobleman Creon. In the Oedipus Rex play, Creon is a positive force. He steps in after Oedipus's crimes are revealed to bring stability back to Thebes. However, there are hints of a two-faced nature. At one point, Oedipus accuses Creon of scheming against him. This side of him is more prevalent in the play Oedipus at Colonus. Ismene tells Oedipus and Antigone that Creon is on his way to Colonus and will try and trick Oedipus into returning to Thebes so he can be buried in an unmarked grave after his death and so remove the possibility of Oedipus's blessed grave empowering some rival city. Message delivered, Ismene leaves to go and help the villagers carry out some special rituals on Oedipus's behalf. Theseus arrives. He and Oedipus are friendly towards each other. Oedipus tells him about the grave prophecy and how he thinks he should be buried near Athens. Theseus praises the deposed king and departs. Next, Creon and some Theban soldiers arrive. Creon tries to convince Oedipus to return to Thebes, but, thanks to Ismene, Oedipus knows Creon's true motives, and the two argue. Creon eventually reveals Ismene is already his prisoner, and he directs his soldiers to seize Antigone. The Thebans begin to carry the two women away, in hopes that Oedipus will follow them back to Thebes. In the nick of time, Theseus returns, and Athenian soldiers overpower the Thebans and rescue Ismene and Antigone. At this point, yet another man arrives. This time, it's Polynices, the son of Oedipus. Oedipus at first refuses to speak to him, but Antigone convinces her father to do so. Polynices confirms what Ismene already told them, that Eteocles chased Polynices out of Thebes, and that Polynices is now preparing to attack the city. Oedipus blames Polynices for driving him into exile, and curses him to be killed by his brother. Antigone tries to convince Polynices not to attack Thebes, and so avoid being killed in the battle. But Polynices is not persuaded. He demands his right to the throne of Thebes be honored, and leaves, no doubt to rejoin the Argive army and finish the final preparations for the siege of Thebes, which was the focus of last episode. At the end of the play, Oedipus dies and is buried at a secret location by Theseus. Antigone asks to be escorted back to Thebes so she can try and stop the war between her brothers Eteocles and Polynices. Of course, she obviously failed. As I went over last episode, Polynices and a great army from Argos did march against Thebes. However, the siege was a splendid failure. Thebes remained standing, but both Polynices and Eteocles did kill each other in a duel beneath its walls. Where they fought, two spears stood upright, standing fixed in each brother's dead chest. But what happened to their sisters, Ismene and Antigone? Going as far back as the 7th century BC, the poet Mimnermus writes that, like her brothers, Ismene also met her end during the war with Argos, although it's not exactly clear if this was during the actual siege or just before. Ismene was probably married to someone important in Thebes, but we do not know who. However, Mimnermus records that she was also involved in an affair. Her lover was a man named Theoclymenus. For whatever reason, this affair offended the goddess Athena. The goddess ordered her favorite warrior, Tydeus, one of the champions in the army attacking Thebes, to kill Ismene. Tydeus found the lovers hiding in a house outside the city, ran into the bedroom, caught them together, and stabbed Ismene in the chest. She died, but her lover, Theoclymenus, escaped Tydeus's wrath, running naked as fast as he could out of the house. This event comes from one of the oldest available sources to these Theban myths. It's also mentioned again by the poet Ion of Chios, who lived around the time of Sophocles, Aeschylus, and Euripides. And the murder is also shown on a Greek vase from around 550 BC. But it's not mentioned by any other Greek writers. The Athenian playwrights, like Sophocles, abandon it entirely. For them, and in the remainder of this episode, Ismene is alive at the end of the siege. While Sophocles' Oedipus Rex and Oedipus at Colonus happened before the beginning of the war between Eteocles and Polynices, Sophocles' play Antigone covers the immediate aftermath. With the sons of Oedipus dead and the Argos army in retreat, Creon, the brother of Oedipus's mother Jocasta, ascends the throne. Thebes is in chaos after the battle. Bodies lay everywhere, the walls and gates were damaged, and probably some homes have been turned to burned rubble. It's Creon's job to pick up the pieces and rebuild the city-state to its former glory. And Creon is very much the man for the job. His name actually means ruler, and he is also descended from one of the Spartoi, the Sown men who first helped build Thebes generations before. This is also not the first time Creon has ruled Thebes. When Oedipus first arrived, Creon was in charge of the kingdom, taking the place of Laius, the king who had been killed by Oedipus but at that time was just missing and presumed dead. Creon had various sons and daughters with his wife Eurydice Henioche. The young man, Megarius, fought the Theban war on the side of Eteocles. He died in the fighting. Other sons were Lycomedes and Haemon. Creon's two daughters, Megara and Pyrrha, were famously married to the hero brothers Heracles and Iphicles. After Polynices' siege of Thebes was over, Creon went out upon the corpse-covered field and retrieved the body of King Eteocles. The son of Oedipus was buried with the full honors suited to a member of the royal family. The other dead son of Oedipus was not. Instead, Creon declared that Polynices was a traitor for trying to attack his home city, and not worthy to be buried at all. His body was left to rot on the ground outside the city, where it would be a sweet treat for the vulture's beak. Creon's niece and Polynices' sister, Antigone, believed this decision was offensive to the gods. Funerals in ancient Greece were very important, and the people believed that if they were not properly conducted, the dead person would be unable to enter the afterlife. Listeners may be familiar with the Greek practice of placing 2 coins over the eyes of a corpse. The idea here was the dead person would use these coins to pay Charon, the ferryman of the underworld, to take them across the river Styx and into the land of the dead. This is just one example of what would be included in a proper burial. No funeral means no coins. No coins, and the dead can't enter the underworld. By not burying Polynices, Creon is forcing his spirit to wander alone along the banks of the Styx for all eternity. Antigone does not want this, and believes the gods do not want this either. The princess goes to see the other daughter of Oedipus, her sister, Ismene. And this is where Sophocles actually begins this play. It's late at night, and by the light of the moon, Antigone leads her sister through one of Thebes' 7 gates so they may have a secret meeting far from spying eyes. Antigone tells Ismene about her desire to bury their brother Polynices, even though this goes against the orders of Creon. She asks her sister for help. But Ismene refuses. Creon ordered that if anyone tried to bury Polynices, they would be stoned to death. Ismene is terrified of being executed. She tells Antigone that they have already lost their parents, Oedipus and Jocasta, and have now lost both of their brothers. Ismene does not want them to lose each other, too. She also warns Antigone that it may not even be possible to approach Polynices' corpse, since Creon has placed guards around it. Antigone is not convinced. She remains resolute in her decision to bury her brother, telling her sister she will bury him herself, and if she dies in the act, that death will come with glory. Ismene asks her to keep her plan secret, and re-enters the city, but not before Antigone insults her sister, saying Ismene continues to disrespect what the gods hold dear, regardless of the excuses she makes. Finally alone, Antigone goes and tries to bury her brother, but was interrupted before she could finish, and fled before being seen. Later, Creon sits in his palace, and a nervous soldier enters. He is one of the men who was left to guard Polynices' dead body. The guard reports that a thin layer of soil was thrown over the corpse, and there is more evidence that some funerary rites were performed. The guard says he did not see who did this. Creon is furious that someone tried to go against his orders. The king accuses the guard of being involved in a conspiracy, and that he is probably guilty of taking a bribe to turn the other way. Creon orders the guard to find the perpetrator or face death. Time passed, and Antigone attempted to return to the burial and finish what she had already started. However, this time, she was caught. The guard brought her to see Creon. Creon questions Antigone, and she does not deny her actions. In fact, she doubles down. The two get in an extended argument. Antigone says that Hades and his laws must be obeyed, while Creon points out that Polynices broke his agreed exile and came back hungry for his family's blood. Creon doubted the gods would want such a criminal honored. At first, both Antigone and Creon represent two understandable but distinct philosophical viewpoints. But Creon gradually shows himself to be obstinate and unable to take Antigone's views into consideration. He eventually says as long as he lives, he will not be ruled by a woman. Antigone calls him immoral and says she would rather be dead than watch her brother and gods dishonored. Creon becomes more and more angry at being defied. He notices Ismene, who is present, growing upset. He asks her if she helped her sister. Ismene, perhaps surprisingly, says she did help Antigone, hoping to be sent to die alongside her guilty sister, because she doesn't want to live on alone. But Antigone tells Creon Ismene did not know about her plans, and is lying. Antigone also says Ismene is not a true friend, but is someone who only uses words and not actions. Antigone here is perhaps hoping to save Ismene's life, but it is more complicated. This is not entirely some altruistic display of trying to take all the blame and allow her sister to live. Antigone believes both sisters made a choice. She made the decision to honor the gods, and if it results in her death, so be it. The honor and glory is hers. From Antigone's point of view, Ismene chose life instead, and so should embrace the honorless survival. Creon listens to them argue and actually mocks both women, saying one lost her mind and the other was born without hers. Then, fed up, he condemns both nieces, Antigone and Ismene, to death. Guards lead them away to be imprisoned, while preparations are made for their executions. At this point, Creon's son Haman appears. Haman is actually betrothed to Antigone. He swears allegiance to his father, saying no marriage will be held higher than his father's opinions. But then Haman carefully asks Creon to show mercy to his fiancée and her sister. Haman says many Thebans quietly support Antigone's actions, but Creon doubles down, and the two bitterly argue. Creon says Haman is a woman's toy, and Creon will have Antigone executed in front of Haman if necessary. The king decides to spare Ismene, but orders that Antigone be sealed up in a cave and left to die in the dark. Haman, upset, swears he will leave Thebes and never see his father again. Guards leave to take Antigone to her doom. Next, the blind seer Tiresias now comes before the throne of Creon. Tiresias is an important side character in Greek mythology, so let's go into him a little bit. He famously spent a portion of his life as a woman. What happened was he came upon a pair of snakes, hit them with a stick, and was then turned into a woman, either by magic or because the goddess Hera transformed him. He lived that way for 7 years, and even got married and had children. When she eventually stumbled upon more snakes, she was transformed back into a man. Tiresias was also blind, but different versions give different reasons for his blindness. One, provided in Apollodorus' library, is that he revealed the god's secrets and was blinded as a consequence. It's a straightforward reason, and it's one Tiresias shares with another blind seer, the old man Phineus, who Jason and the Argonauts encountered on their adventures. Although, it is also a funny reason. Tiresias is a seer. Isn't the whole point to reveal the gods' will? Of course, maybe the very nature of being a seer gets these people into trouble. Anyway, the other reasons for Tiresias's blindness also involve offending the gods in some way. In one, he accidentally saw Athena naked and was struck blind by the goddess. In the other, he sided with Zeus in an argument with Hera and was blinded by the Queen of Heaven. In this version, Zeus responded by giving him his powers of prophecy and an extra long lifespan. Past indiscretions against the gods aside, Tiresias comes to Creon as an authority figure. He has apparently been advising the kings of Thebes for generations. In fact, in a different play, Euripides has him warn Pentheus about offending the god Dionysus, and Pentheus was king of Thebes long before Creon. Tiresias warns Creon that the gods are angry. The sacrifices and prayers of the Thebans are going unheard. The gods will continue to ignore them, unless Polynices' rotting corpse is finally buried. Note, this wrath of the gods is what Antigone originally warned Creon about, but now the more authoritative Tiresias is confirming that what Antigone said is already coming to pass. This is Creon's last chance to listen, but the hard-headed king again flubs it. Instead of taking Tiresias's advice, he accuses the old man of corruption and double-dealing. Tiresias, though, is not bullied. He tells Creon that if he persists, his family will suffer, his reputation as a practical ruler will be destroyed, and Thebes itself will be abandoned by the gods. Creon finally gives in. He goes with his men to release Antigone from her cave prison. But it is too late. When the cave is reopened, her body is found inside, hanging from a rope tied around one of the stalactites. It gets worse. Haman, having followed Creon to the cave, finds Antigone dead. He is angry, devastated, and blames his father. He pulls a blade and tries to stab Creon, but is stopped. Haman then turns the blade on himself and commits suicide. With his son dead, Creon now had Polynices buried. He returns to the palace and finds his wife Eurydice also dead. She killed herself when she found out about her beloved son Haman. Creon finds out that with her last words, she cursed him for the deaths of Megareus, the son who died during the previous siege, and now Haman too. The play ends with Creon a broken man, acknowledging that he is to blame for everything that has happened. He was bringing order to a weakened Thebes, but he went against the will of the gods and lost his wife and son in the process. In fact, the gods are not done with Creon. In the end, he says he is worth less than nobody, and hopes to not live another day. But the play's chorus, a group of old men, reminds Creon to leave his death to the will of the gods, and that his own fate is still to steer Thebes through these hard times. Before ending, I want to double back and talk a little bit more about Antigone's fiancé, Haman. He suffers a tragic end in Sophocles' play, but it seems he was always considered collateral damage in the dramatic stories surrounding Thebes. His name literally means bloody, and every mention of him ends with his bloody demise. Haman's name appears in fragments of the Oedipus, a lost poem from the 8th century BC that told the story of Oedipus. Haman is said to be one of the victims of the Sphinx's riddle game. He guessed wrong and was devoured by the monster. Haman is also mentioned centuries later in the works of the Roman Hyginus, and this version also ties him back to Antigone. In this account, Creon sentences Antigone to death and orders his son to carry out the execution. But Haman does not kill his lover. Instead, he secretly helps her escape Thebes, and she later gives birth to their son, Maon. Maon grows up and travels to Thebes. On his body, he has a serpent-shaped birthmark, something that all members of the Theban royal family descended from Cadmus are supposed to have. Because of this, his parentage is revealed, and Creon takes this as evidence of Antigone's survival, and she is hunted down. This time, Haman is forced to kill Antigone. Afterwards, he kills himself. In this version, you can see we have a similar end result to Sophocles' play. In the general tradition, but especially in Sophocles, the opposition of Antigone and Creon shows a tension between someone's duty to their gods and family and their duty to laws and the state. Both people remain stubborn, refuse to cooperate or compromise, and this leads to their tragic downfall. Antigone's refusal to follow the law, even if it is immoral, leads to her being crushed under its Creon-shaped boot. Creon is punished for his injustice and hubris. At first, he does seem concerned about the gods, but that is not actually the case. While he initially asked Antigone if the gods wanted criminals honored with funerary rites, he later downplays her having Zeus as a protector, and says she's wasting her time showing respect for whatever is in Hades. At the end of the play, the chorus summarizes Creon's issue best. Reverence for the gods must never cease. Bold words, born from arrogance, are punished by great blows. So it is how one learns in old age to be wise. These last few episodes have focused on the myths surrounding Thebes' cursed kings. Another line from Sophocles' Antigone play gets back to the heart of it. Once a house is shaken by the gods, madness stalks the family without fail. Disaster will come to many generations. The curse on the family and the punishments of the gods drip through like some oily black poison. So far we have heard of the strange demise of Laius and then Oedipus, the broader, multi-city doom of Eteocles and Polynices, and the smaller scale but certainly tragic end of Antigone. But the pain isn't over. Next episode will bring the end of this Theban cycle of stories, and tell how the curse led to another war for the next generation of royal Thebans. And that's all for today. If you're enjoying these episodes, please share them with a friend. As always, thank you for listening.